Hi, my name is Mallory Beller, and this is my final presentation for SPMT 481. So let's just get right into it. In the world of sport, performance, fairness, and athlete well-being all intersect and sometimes collide. In this semester, my research explores a topic that sits right at the center of that tension, which is energy drink use in sport and whether these products create advantages or risks that the governing bodies need to address. My research topic focuses on the long-term effects of energy drink consumption on fairness and athlete well-being in sport, and whether governing bodies should regulate energy drinks similar to other performance-enhancing substances. I chose this topic because energy drink culture has exploded across collegiate and competitive sports. Brands like Celsius and Red Bull are everywhere, but their impact physically, competitively, and ethically is still debated. In addition, and a fun fact, I actually touched on this topic during my op-ed presentation for SPMT 265, and I'm just very passionate about this topic and the imposition energy drinks pose on athletes and college students. I know, and I can attest for my roommates included, that energy drinks are very popular, especially on college campuses, whether it be athletes or just students. And I actually experienced caffeine addiction and withdrawals during my sophomore year of college without even realizing I was having 2 energy drinks a day on top of a latte, which has 3 shots of espresso in it. So I was averaging about 600 to 700 milligrams of caffeine daily. Once I stopped consuming that much caffeine, I experienced horrible withdrawals. Very real. For 3 days, I was in my bed. I couldn't get up. I slept all day. I had the worst headaches. I was fatigued. I felt like I was sick. And that was just because I stopped caffeine cold turkey. So it's a very real thing. And I know that a lot of college athletes could experience this if energy drinks aren't looked upon further, and maybe guidelines aren't implemented. I think they are a big issue in our generation, and especially in college sports where they have unlimited access to these substances, big name brands, big sports brands and sports teams can be represented by different energy drinks such as Celsius and Red Bull, which means they have just unlimited access to these substances, which could ultimately hurt them and impose health risks in the long run. And I truly believe that when I walk to class alone, I think I see out of every 10 college students I see, I believe 6 to 7 of them have a energy drink in their hand before noon. And so that is why I'm very passionate about this topic, and I think it is very real, and I think that we need to kind of look more on it, and I want to dive more into that and research this. Throughout the semester, my annotated bibliography and literature review will focus on several questions, like guiding questions, which I can list a couple. So do energy drinks provide athletes with a measurable performance advantage compared to non-users? How do athletes perceive the fairness of energy drink use compared to banned substances? What are the long-term health effects of frequent energy drink consumption on athletes? How does energy drink use affect sleep, recovery, injury rates, and stress? How do governing bodies like the NCAA is currently regulate or advise athletes about energy drinks? And then lastly, do sponsorships from energy drink companies influence consumption patterns or policy decisions? Again, like I already touched on, I think it is unfair already because these bigger teams are going to have more sponsorships and they're going to have access to these performance enhancing substances that are energy drinks versus, your kind of not as known teams that are smaller. They may not have access to these. So definitely want to touch on that. So those are some guiding questions for my annotated bibliography and literature review. And so for what I've learned this semester as I've researched my topic, primarily revolves around developing a deeper understanding of my research and how to approach it effectively. Anyone can collect information, but understanding it and using it strategically is what separates meaningful research from surface level work. Throughout this course, I've gained a much clearer grasp of research methods and how each one will support my topic. I now understand the differences between primary and secondary research. Yes, you're taught this in high school, but really diving deeper through our assignments and through our Google Forms, Google Sheets, and all the readings we've done. And so after completing assignments such as the mind map and research topic activities, I realized that secondary research is the best starting point for for my research. Secondary research allows me to analyze existing scientific literature, NCAA guidelines, athlete consumption trends, and prior findings on energy drink effects, which gives me a strong foundation before moving into my original data collection. Primary research such as surveys or interviews may become a future component, but secondary research provides the depth and credibility that I need for right now. I do foresee myself creating a survey that I can send to college students just to kind of understand this side of things, and then kind of pivot that more towards athletes. I do know a couple of athletes on the football team, so I would definitely send that survey to just see kind of where they're at, or maybe, even a club intramural team that we have here on campus. And I would gather both college students and college athletes as participants for the survey, using their consumption patterns as a key driver in exploring my research topic. In addition, I have a much clearer understanding of quantitative versus qualitative research. For my topic, I will be using quantitative data to better evaluate performance outcomes, health indicators, consumption patterns, and any measurable effects energy drinks may have on athlete well-being. Quantitative data will help me identify trends, compare groups, and assess whether performance advantages or health risks appear consistently across all of my studies. Moreover, I have particularly focused on the long-term health risk correlated to energy drink consumption and how these risks are more serious than athletes assume. Frequent consumption is linked to sleep disturbances, dehydration, cardiovascular strain, and high injury rates, especially in populations balancing academics and their training. Overall, I learned that energy drinks operate in a gray area, which means they're legally allowed, yes, widely promoted, but scientifically questionable in terms of long-term athlete wellness. Lastly, what is your plan for the remainder of your culminating experience? My plan for the remainder of my culminating experience includes several key steps. So first, I plan to develop and refine a survey designed for both college athletes and college students. And based on this data I've already collected and the data I still need, I will use those as driving factors for my research. My goal is to use each week intentionally so that I stay on track, avoid falling behind, and gather as much meaningful information as possible to support my research. I will continue reviewing scholarly work on energy drink consumption, athlete perceptions of fairness, regulatory guidelines, and the influence of sponsorships. Additionally, I plan to conduct a deeper literature analysis by incorporating highly credible sources, peer-reviewed articles, and relevant athlete perspectives. Together, these steps will help ensure that my culminating experience is thorough, well-supported, and grounded in strong research practices. So that concludes my final presentation and kind of my game plan for the rest of the semester and going into my research topic. Have a great day. Thank you for the semester.